Hey there, folks. How's it going? Welcome to week one. We are working on this tune called New Slang by the Shins. Now, the Shins are a band that I actually, never, I never really got into their discography much. I didn't really know this band at all until I saw the movie Garden State. Zach Braff's kind of little indie movie. It was really good, but I remember this song from that soundtrack, and I really, really got into this tune. And it actually led me to listening to more of um, this band's music. And yeah, they're a great band, great songwriters. Um, yeah, and this one especially, I really love this. This actually reminds me a lot of kind of my mid to late 20s. Yeah, very artsy and very artsy and naive in the world. That's what this song reminds me of. Cool. This song, the big challenge for this tune is really going to be memorizing the chord progressions. There's a couple of weird little time signature changes, but otherwise, I mean, really, the song is all just four chords, right? So in terms of left hand technique, it's actually fairly straightforward, but the challenging part about it is that the chord progressions are long, they're a little bit intricate, and again, those little time signature changes can be a little bit tricky. But why don't we start there? Why don't we start with the left hand? We'll start off with the chords that we need for this tune: A minor, 2, 0, 0, and 0. Now, let me just double check that I am in tune. Quick tuning party for everybody if they want to join. All right, A minor, 2, 0, 0, and 0. There's our A minor chord. Our next chord is a C chord, 0, 0, 0, and 3. Third chord is an F, 2, 0, 1, and 0. And then our last chord is a G, 0, 2, 3, and 2. Cool, let's get a little visual on those chord shapes. The first one, actually, no, let's kind of stay with this angle here. And let's see if we can practice some rotations. Now, the main thing you want to pay attention to is this A minor chord here and the shift to C. Really try and find kind of how these chords connect to each other. See how my middle finger's on the top string? Now, if you look, my ring finger is kind of hovering over the third fret already. See how this is my second finger, my ring finger is my third finger. So if I just drop it on the third fret of the bottom string, that can be helpful for my transition. Next chord is an F, back up, just like that A minor, but now I'm adding my pointer finger on the E string, first fret. So it's kind of a modification on the A minor if you're looking for some reference. 2, 0, 1, and 0. And then the G chord is middle finger dropping all the way down. See how I drop that finger all the way down to the second fret? And then I like to stack my pointer finger above. Usually my pivot point, I'm looking for my middle finger first, stack my pointer finger right above it, but skip a string, and then right on that open string is where my ring finger goes for the third fret. Let's try some whole notes. A minor, 2, 3, 4, 2, and ready. Switch to C, drop that ring finger bottom. Good. Back up to the A minor, add the pointer finger for F, 2, 3, and then drop that middle finger down, stack that finger, and then the ring finger goes back there. Here we go. Ready? A minor, 2, and ready. Switch to C. F, here we go. Beautiful. And then finish on G for me. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the handout for this tune. This is the beginner handout. If you need a copy of, not plugged in, give me 1 second while this connects here. Here is our beginner handout in the left hand chord shapes that we just went over. We'll just get a little visual representation of those chords as well. 1, 2, ready, A minor, 2, ring finger down C, here we go, 2, and ready to F, 2, and ready to G. Beautiful. Let's go 2 more rotations just like that. A minor, 2, ready, C, beautiful, ready, F, good, and let's land on G. Last time, here we go. A minor, and C, and F, and let's finish on G. Actually, let's finish on A minor. Nicely done. Okay, cool. Remember, in terms of chord progressions, what you're always looking for is how do these chords connect. Now, obviously, using the visual obviously using the visual aid, kind of looking down at the chord charts themselves, super helpful, right? It can help us get our fingers around the shapes that we may need to make on the fretboard. But remember, try not to rely on your eyes. Think more, how do my hands move between these chord shapes? Now, when you see all the chords in a row like this, you don't have the complete context of what you need, right? What we need to think about when we're doing a chord progression is more, how does one chord connect to the next, and what order do the chords appear in, right? Because the chord progression isn't A minor to C to F to G. It's actually a lot of bouncing around in between those 4 chord shapes. And that's really what we want to memorize. We want to try to memorize almost the choreography. We want to memorize the dance steps of how do my fingers move between the chord shapes in the chord progression. Cool. Speaking of that, let's move to the chord progressions. Now, the chord progressions themselves can be a little bit tricky. Actually, let's just focus here. That way we can see it. This is basically a copy and a paste from... Oh, my thing is not showing up again. How about now? Yeah, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there it is. Okay, cool. So this here is a copy from the song sheet handout. So you can use this as a reference, but I like to also put it in the level handout as well. So for the beginner handout, which is what we're working off of today, this right here is just a copy of that chord progression. We can see the chords in the order that they appear. Now, what we're going to see is that these slash chords represent where you kind of split chords between measures. Now, this can be a little bit misleading because I was saying before that there's like a little bit of a time signature change that happens. I'm just going to go ahead and play this so you can kind of hear how long the durations are, right? Gold teeth and the curse of this town are all in my mouth. Only I don't know how they got out here. Now, do you notice how when I'm playing through that chord progression, I'm holding certain chords for longer? And one way that you can visually kind of see, when I see like kind of this uppercase A minor, I know I hold this for 1, 2, 3, 4 beats, right? When I see this little small one up here, that means I'm splitting the measure between C and F, but that's kind of not fully true. What that really means is I hold C for 2 beats, and then when I hit F, I'm going to hold that for 4 beats. So there's 2 ways to think of this. You can either think of it as a measure of 6/4, which means 6 quarter notes in a measure, 2 of them in one chord and 4 of them in another. Or you can think of it as a little time signature change to 2/4 time. So you have a measure of 2 beats, which is 1 chord C, and then a measure of 4 beats back to 4/4 time. Either way, really what you want to think about is that for most of this verse, we're kind of hearing 2 beats of a chord switching into 4 beats of a chord, right? So if we have a visual representation here, A minor, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, F, 2, 3, 4. Then C, 2, G, 2, 3, 4. Does that make sense? Yeah. Again, this is really what's tricky about this tune. In terms of left-hand technique, it's not really like, oh, I can't hold those chords, because they're usually the first 4 chords you learn, right? C, F, A minor, G, a lot of 1-finger chords, 2-finger chords, and your first 3-finger chord, right? So it won't really be challenging to learn these learn the chords that you need, but it will be challenging to kind of put the progression together in that order, right? Let's continue to look at this, and then we'll try putting it into our hands. Now, if you've never seen this before, this represents a repeat. So what that means is that when I play through this and I hit this little outside bracket here, that means I'm going to bounce back to the beginning and play through. Now, with this repeat, it's a little more challenging because the things in red here are called first and second endings, right? And so what I want to do here is I want to play through the first time. I'm going to hit the repeat bracket. I'm going to bounce back and play the A minor. Now, when I play the C and G, instead of coming into this first ending in the first set of parentheses, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bounce out to my second ending, and that's what I play there, right? Does that make sense? Can be a little bit tricky, but I just want you to pay attention to this idea that, like, you know, we want to be able to kind of read through this, but eventually we just kind of want to feel our way through it, right? So I'll go ahead and play through that. You can join me if you want to, unless you need more help with those chords in the chord progression. You can kind of pause the video here and then go back, or yeah, and then you can kind of press play and skip and jump in and join me with these chord movements. 1, 2, A minor. Remember, 4 beats here. 1, 2, 3, 2 beats on C. 1, 2, switch 4, 3, 4, C to G. 1, 2, 4 beats on G. 2, 3, first ending. I don't wanna know how. 2, 3, 4. A minor to G, both 2 beats. Now I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Turn me back. 2 beats to 4 beats. C for 2 beats. G for 4 beats. 2, 3. Now we jump to the outside, right? The outside, which is C/F, A minor /G, right? We go happier than. See how those get 2 beats each with no mindset. 2, 3, 4, and 1 more rotation of G to finish, right? Cool. Let's see if we can give that a try one more time. 1, 2, ready, and dun, 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 C and F. 2, 3, 4. 2 counts, then G. 2, 3, first ending. I don't know how. 2, 3, 2 beats on each. A to G and turn. Repeat. Me back into the past. Beautiful. That was when we met. Good. Let's go to the outside. Second ending. I was happier than with no mindset. 2, 3, 4, and G. 2, 3, and that would take us into the chorus. Turn to me like. Cool. So again, tricky, right? But the one thing you'll notice is that there's really only 2 chord progressions that you need to memorize. So that makes it a little bit easier, right? It's either a verse or either a chorus. There is some alterations, like you got to repeat a section more than once or something in certain verses, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that a little bit later. Cool. All right, let's continue on with our progressions, because again, this is going to be the most challenging part for this tune, and the place where you're really going to need to spend the most time. Now, we're actually learning this song in the key of the original recording, so you can always go to the original and kind of weave your way through using your ears, right? And almost knowing exactly where you're supposed to change chords by letting your ear guide you. You hear that kind of change in the melodic line. You hear that switch from the verse to the chorus. That'll really be helpful in creating a foundation for your ears. Okay, cool. Let's take a look at what the chorus is doing. The chorus is a little bit more straightforward. You can see that the chorus is really kind of the same thing, except for in this little section here. Now, remember, repeat symbols always mean that you repeat these brackets. Now, what I want you to notice is that there isn't a repeat normally in the chorus. What these repeat brackets represent is that on the third chorus, the last one you play in the song, chorus 3 here, represented by that, this is a repeat. But for every other one, you just go through this once. G, C, F 2 beats, C 2 beats, and then G, right? And then you go down to the second line. Only in the third chorus will you actually repeat this first line. Make sense? Pretty straightforward, okay? And then we've got G, we've got C, and now, do you see how there's repeat brackets around this FC? This is what's referred to as a tag. It's kind of like you're sort of cycling through the chords that you just played and play them over again. It's not specifically a tag because it's kind of inbuilt into the chorus progression. But what I want you to know is that F and C kind of bounce back and forth together while the melodic line is sort of weaving through the last part of this chorus. And then we've got 2 measures of G to finish. Cool? All right, now that we talk through it, let's see if you I'm going to just listen for now, yeah? The chorus sounds like this. If you turn 2, 3 from me like A, 2 beats on F, go C to the wind. And remember, there's no repeat here. We just dropped to the second line, unless we were in chorus 3. Might have jumped from my tree and all. Here's that F to C bouncing back and forth. I'll dance like the king of the ice soars. One more time. Rest of our lives would fare very well. 3, 4. And then we're into the verse. New slang, once you notice the stripes. Yeah? Let's see if we can try that one more time. 2, 3, 4. Turn to me like a gold C to my trees and all. F to C 3 times. Oh, the king of the ice soars till the rest of our lives would fare very well. Bum, 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 ba-dum. All right, cool. So again, chord progressions, that's going to be the tricky thing. Really make sure you're putting some time into how these chord progressions move, like what are all the connecting moves, how long each chord duration is kind of felt, and then yeah, just on repeat, right? You notice I'm not really focusing on any type of rhythm right now. I'm just playing whole notes. Anytime you want to get down to the most simple way to approach rhythm, it's whole notes. You hold for 4 counts. You hold for 4 counts if the chord is staying for that whole measure. You hold for play half notes, hold for 2 counts if that's how long the chord is being held for before it switches to the next one. Really, you're kind of taking rhythm out of the equation other than feeling each one of those beats, but you don't actually have to play any kind of complicated rhythm, right? One way, this actually kind of helped me when I was trying to internalize what the chord progression was. One way you can think about it is in these sets here, right? Because that's really where the funky time happens. Do you see how it's like 2 beats of F, 2 beats of C, and then 4 beats of F? I like to kind of think of these as almost like intros. They're like pickups. If you've ever heard that term in music, they're like pickup measures, right? So it's like you would pick up 2 beats before going to F, which is kind of the chord you're going to. You use the C 2 beats to pick up going into the G. Let's see if you can kind of hear that as I move through, right? I go, gold, gold teeth, pick up with C, curse of this town, and you land on F, right? Pick up on C, all in my mouth, only I don't know how, right? Can you kind of feel how that C is sort of like, and then it drops you back in. Again, the funky time signature, it's hard if you're trying to remember, is it a weird time signature? When does it go back into 4/4? But a lot of times if you can just kind of memorize the feel of that sound, it's like, right? If you can kind of feel that that's like a sort of a transition chord, that C chord is a transition chord to get you to your destination, F, G, and then F. It's super helpful to kind of memorize that sound by ear, right? All right, let's try one time going through the verse and then first ending in second and then into the chorus, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4. Brings like a C and then F. Good. C and G. Hope it's right when you die. First ending. Golden boy. C and G. And now second ending. A minor. 2, 3, 4, and bum. Chorus. Return to me. Split the measure. F. Gold takes to the wind. Second line. Here we go. Gotta jump from my tree and I'll dance. Repeat. The sing of the ice source. F and C. After our life would fare very well. Good. All right. So that's it, progression-wise. We'll be introducing the rhythm next, but remember, you can always pause this. You can listen to the original. You can really kind of wrap your head around exactly how those chord progressions sound. Because, it's one thing to be able to count all of those. It's another thing to just know because the expectation is there with your ear. Remember, the first rule of Uke Lab is listen to the song until you can't stand it anymore, because that's really going to give you the foundation to be able to build all of this technique that we're working on, right? Okay, let's talk about rhythm next. Cool. Let's see if we can just learn this by playing. Cool. So here we go. What we're going to do is we're going to play a quarter note, eighth notes, quarter note. Sound like this. 1, 2, and quarter note, eighth, quarter note, eighth, quarter note, down, up, down, da, 4 and 1. Did you notice how the first beat is actually the third beat of what feels like that little triplet cycle? Remember, in our count, when we start, first beat is a quarter note. Quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter, eighth, eighth, quarter. And then you start to get into this kind of 3-part feel. But what I want you to know is visually when you look at this, the important thing to understand is that that strong beat on 1 is always the beginning of the cycle. So even if you're playing 4 and 1 and hitting there, this is the start of your rhythm. Cool? So when we're counting in, 1, 2, 3, 4, strum down, then 2 and 3, then 4 and. Cool? 1, 2, ready, again. 1, 2 and 3, 4 and 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 1. This rhythm's a lot more straight ahead, a lot more simple to play, right? And let's finish on 1. Nice. Let's take a look at the next rhythm. So one thing I want you to pay attention to is this, is that if I was to take this first half of this rhythm and repeat it for the second half, do you notice that that is really what's happening? Yeah? The reason that we have this is because when we play this line, that's when we're playing a chord for 4 beats. When we play this line, and you'll notice this little red arrow here, when we play that line, what we're doing is playing 2 beats for each chord. I'm not sure if that totally makes sense. It can be a little bit confusing, but if you can drop your eyes down to here, do you see A minor 4 beats, C for 2 beats, F for 4 beats? So what I'm doing here is I'm playing the bottom line for the first measure because I hold A minor for 4 beats. 1, 2, and 4, and. Now watch, when I play C, what I'm doing is the first half of the rhythm. 1, 2, and. Now you'll notice when I start in the F, I don't start on the second half of the top line. I actually start at the beginning of the second line because I'm holding the F for 4 counts, right? So that's where that little off-time signature thing gets a little bit tricky. But one way we can think about this, right, this A minor to G split where I'm actually holding 2 counts, that's when this first line is going to come into play. Cool? So what we'll play is A minor for the first half right here, and then we'll play C starting here for the second half, right? I mean G, that's what I meant to say. Well, actually, you know, the example that is actually really easy good to play is this F and C to transition. I'll dance like the king of the ice, or it's F to C. Then we can really feel what this top line feels like, yeah? Remember, we just did that rhythm, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, right? All right, now that we're cycling through that, what we'll do is we'll play an F, we'll play a C. We'll slow it down a little bit. Good. And remember, you can always, if this is too tricky for you, what you can do is always just play an A chord and take it off, C, and take it off. You'll notice how I'm playing the first half, and then on beat 3, I'm switching. That'll help you get the timing right. And then eventually you can get to kind of some harder transitions like F to C or A minor to G happens in the song, right? But for now, let's work that F to C. F, then C. Ready, F, change on 3. Good. And remember, this is our top line that we're playing, F and C. F, switch to C. Good. Last time. And C, and finish on 1. Beautiful. Nicely done. Remember, what we're thinking about here is how does it feel to move in between those chords, and when is my timing happening? I would way rather have you play, you know, your tempo way slower, so you're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, and ba, da, 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 rather than this kind of like play through little stop before you switch chords. That's gonna really, you know, that's really gonna be applicable when we're playing A minor to G, because that's a way trickier transition, right? All right, let's take a look at the next rhythm. Actually, let's take a look at our hands for the next rhythm, okay? I want to play the beginning, 1, 2, and. Now, this little moment here is the part that trips a lot of people up. Those 2 up strums in a row can be really tricky. So let's just try this, an up strum, and then play another up strum. Now, do you notice how if you play an up strum, your hand has to come down? So that's what we want to do in this rhythm, is we want to let our hand come down after that longer up strum, right? So we play 1, 2, and then another into is when they freeze here at the top, and then they go, oh shit, I gotta do another up strum. And if you rush back down there, you're usually out of time. So think to yourself, 1, 2, and 3, and on there. 1, 2, and miss on 3, and then you're playing on the and of 3. 1, 2, up, and then another up. Let your hand come down naturally. Now after that up, that second up strum, we're gonna play up, down, up. Just gonna play in eighth notes. Up, down, up. All right, let's try it again. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, up. After this up, you're just gonna finish the rhythm with an up, down, up. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 4, and 1, 2, and 4, and. There you go. Let's go 2 more times like this. And 1, 2, and 4, and last time, and finish on 1. So really what we need to teach ourselves to do is how to move in between these two rhythms, right? First one is when we're switching between the chords faster, and the second one is this rhythm here, all right? So that's what I want you to work on a lot this week, switching between these two rhythms. Let's try it together. Here we go. First rhythm, 2 and 3, 4 and 1, 2 and 3. Second rhythm, down, down, up, down, up, 1, 2, and let's try it with a visual. Here we go. First line. And second line, ready, go. 1, 2, and 4. And last time, and finish on 1. All right, now that I've got this visual up here, remember, when we see a chord progression like this one, C to F, right? We know that C has to be 2 beats. So here is where we're really gonna like play with this rhythm, right? We're gonna play the first half for the 2 beats, and then that instead of coming into this second part, we actually have to drop to the second line because we've got 2 beats in the first part of the measure, 4 beats in the second part of the measure. So that's a little bit tricky, right? We got to play the first half of the top line and then the second line. So it sounds like 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 4, and, right? Let's see if we can try that together. Ready? Go. First 2 beats of the first line, second line. 1, 2, and 1, 2, and 4, and down, down, up, down, down, up, down. So, you know, really there's 2 rhythms here, but you kind of got to practice 3. You got to practice whenever you're splitting a measure between 2 beats. You got to practice the second line, which is when you're holding a chord for the whole measure, and then you've got to kind of practice those 3 places where you've got to play 2 beats and then 4 beats, right? Which is the first half of the top line and then the bottom line, right? Cool. If you're not ready for this, remember, really still kind of split these things apart. Just try to do the right hand, just try to do the left hand, but for class's sake right now, what we're going to do is we're going to combine those 2 things. Yeah, we're going to play the left hand chord shapes we need, and then we're going to move into the different rhythms we have. Cool? So I'll try and make both of these things appear as much well as I can on screen. Remember, A minor, C and F, C and G, C and F, A minor, G. Let's just play that first section. 1, 2, second line rhythm, 1, 2, and 4, and first half on C, 1, 2, and now F, second line, right? C for 2 beats, G, second line, and then C, and then F for 4 beats. Good. Now here, A minor to G, we split the measure, 1, 2, and G, back to A minor. Nicely done. Let's try again. 2, 3, 4. Go, G, 2 beats in the chorus of this town. Full measure on F, which is that second line. All in my mouth. Only I don't know how. Beautiful. A minor to G. Split the measure. Down, dear. Let's keep going. Turn me. 2 beats back into the pad. C to G. 2 beats here. 4 beats here. Good. And now we go to second ending. Happier than, split the measure. A minor and 4 beats on G. Good. Now for the chorus, we're going to play the second line because most of these chords we're holding for 4 counts. The only time we're going to do the first line is when we play F to C, right? When we split that measure in line 1 and line 2 of the chorus. 2, 3, and if you turn C to me like F to C, good to the wind. I might have jumped from my tree and I'll split the measure. I'll dance like the king of the ice sword till the rest of our lives would fare very well. And then finish on A minor. All right, that is it for week 1. A little bit of a challenge. You know, we kind of came out the gate swinging with these funky time changes. Remember, in terms of left-hand technique, it's not a ton to memorize. It's just 4 chords. But, you know, that's it's a little bit misleading because of how tricky these progressions are. Really pay attention to memorizing the durations without the rhythms, right? Because if you can hear C, 2, F, 2, 3, 4, C, 2, G, 2. If you can feel kind of those 2-beat off, you know, the time signature changes, if you can feel them as starting to get a little bit more natural, it's going to be a lot easier once you start to apply the actual strum pattern. It's going to be a lot easier because your body already knows how long you're supposed to hold each one of those chords for. Cool. Great job this week. Let me know if you have any questions. Drop it in the comments or shoot me up on Slack. That's usually where we communicate for these live classes. Yeah, and check out next week where we'll be getting a little bit more into technique. We'll be learning kind of the weird twists on some of the different parts of the tune, like in our, you know, verse 3 and chorus 3 where we start to make a couple of changes. But otherwise, this song is pretty straightforward. Oh yeah, and next week we'll be starting to get into the melodic line, right? That little intro. So tune in next week. Thanks for all your hard work, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.